Hello, and welcome to another video. I'll be covering Vigilance, Vengeance, Focus, and Rage. I'm going to do the Republic styles first, and then I'll show you guys screenshots of the combat layout, or combat style loadout, so you guys can see the selections that I take on that side. We'll primarily be doing it from the Republic point of view. First thing we'll go into is tacticals. There are multiple choices in tacticals, but for overall damage, Cut to Pieces is basically your go-to as Vigilance and Vengeance. You can use Grit Teeth, you can use the single target Ravage one that refreshes your dots, and you can also use Life Warden. Pretty much Life Warden is useful on every class, but ideally you're always probably going to go with Cut to Pieces. Moving on from there, let's go to combat style. Let's start with the level 23 options. We don't know exactly how much damage this does. There is a formula for this, and for whatever reason they have just not included it. Maybe they'll eventually add it. But basically, the uptime of this is not very high, and the circumstances to make it happen don't happen as much in PvP. So the uptime and the basically value of this is not that high. Going into the next one, the initial damage of Plasma Brand is increased by 50%, reduced cooldown by 2 seconds. This is nice for basically being able to have Plasma Brand more often. So that's your highest hitting dot, and the dot that you usually try to spread because it lasts the longest. So that's a nice one to take. I take this one, however. So this basically just increases the critical hit chance of your bleeds, or in this case, burns, since we're playing Vigilance. And if we read the Cut to Pieces tactical, when a bleed tick critically hits, which would be burn, basically, for Republic, reduces the cooldown of Vengeful Slam, which would be Vigilant Thrust, by 1 second. This allows you to slam spam a lot more. Especially since our critical chance is really low, this really helps a lot. I use Blade Burst because Blade Storm is one of your highest damaging abilities next to Impel, but when you're cleaving, it's Plasma Brand and Vigilant Thrust. So this is really nice to have. It's a cone AoE, unfortunately, so you do have to aim it just a little bit. We have Cut to Pieces, so Cyclone Slash isn't really useful. And then the Ravage route is really nice. This is very situational. If you need more control, highly recommend taking it. And then going on to our level 38 choices, we take Reaping. This is Leaping, my bad. Leaping Strike, right, for the root. That's why we want it. We want the root. The extra leap is very cool. Basically how this works, since it's not correctly done yet, it'll do the animation and then it'll teleport you closer to the target, right? But it doesn't work if you're rooted, which is awkward, but just keep that in mind. This also causes some desync. I don't know how beneficial it actually is. I assume it's pretty decent because ever since I started using it, it seems like people have a little bit harder time trying to hit me, which is great, right? Taking less damage, that's great. However, this just wouldn't affect the range DPS whatsoever. But basically, once the animation's over, you'll get teleported closer to them, and it does root them. So if you're looking to use this to root somebody so you can get a slam off, do wait until the animation's over. Otherwise, you might try to hit slam, and then you get teleported to a place that's not optimal, or try to root them in an optimal place for using a spread. This ability is pretty fun. They can easily fix this by making the teleport animation, basically the movement animation first, and then do the ability animation, or have basically the animation shorter than what it is, because the animation is pretty long, and for whatever reason, this game has never canceled the previous animation when you do the next ability. So you kind of just always have to wait, which can make for some clunky gameplay. I do hope that this will be fixed, but it's a very nice one just because of the root. This one is basically just increased damage and focus gain. We don't really need focus, so it's not very great. 10% additional damage is nice, but we don't really care about that. This basically does additional critical burn. This is nice, especially if you can get the spread on this, and then it also increases the critical hit chance of Impel, which is Overhead Slash. This is really nice. This is one of your hardest hitting abilities when it comes to single target. For Scream, Impel would be number one. Hugh is somewhere around there with Force Scream, which is Blade Storm. So we'll usually take this one or the Leaping Strike. Then going into the next one, we pretty much always take this one. The Purge is amazing, and it also reduces the cooldown of this ability constantly when you get a critical burn effect and get a 20% max health heal. That is amazing. I can't stress how useful this is in cleave situations. This will help you survive so much. If you're not worried about taking damage, this is really nice for extra damage. Overall, I do highly recommend critical conditions because survivability is an issue. But let's say in PvE, for instance, you probably would want this because you don't really have that issue. Then going into level 51 choices, we have Battlefield Command, Defiance, and Unyielding Justice. Unyielding Justice is pretty fun. This, however, does not work with Blade Burst, so the increased range of Blade Storm doesn't actually, work with this. Which is unfortunate, but still, if you're not actually making use of the extra range, this still works. Just for reference, this is pretty fun to play with, but overall, there's not like incredible use for it. I do highly recommend taking this one because having a reduced cooldown on your leap, even if it's only very minor, helps a lot. And the reason why is that when you leap, you get 20% DR, and then you also, on top of that, get CC immunity, and you also have interrupt immunity, though the interrupt immunity doesn't really do anything unless you're like activating a mod in Dust Proving Grounds, or you're able to leap to somebody and then immediately start channeling a node. Like those are like maybe the only uses. Other than that, you're basically just trying to leap as much as you can to help your survivability. Moving on to next choices, I take Second Wind because of 10% heal. The reduced cooldown on CC Breaker is really nice because we are very squishy. Like overall, our ability to take damage is there. It's just that we can't really mitigate that damage, if that makes sense. We just take a lot of damage. So being able to retaliate while we're taking damage is very important. You don't really need War Master because we're constantly having Rolling Blade procs in general. And sometimes we'll maybe not use that ability in favor of a slam. So it varies, and usually after you've slammed, you're probably going to get a proc for Hugh anyway, which is Rolling Blade. The only reason you would probably take this is for the immunity to movement and parrying effects after you've leapt. But other than that, it's not too great, but it's also not too bad. This one, 60% AoE DR for 15 seconds after using your AoE taunt. This is very good. If there's ever like a heavy AoE game or heavy AoE that like you're constantly dying to, having this will help you survive greatly. Very situational. And then I pretty much always go Mad Dash because you're just going to break your all anyway, which is Intimidate Roar, and then your Saber reflects 5 seconds to reflect. That's really nice, but for mobility sake, being able to use Blade Blitz or Mad Dash into an immediate leap basically just pretty much guarantee that you actually get your leap, right? And it also purges roots, and it's up every 3-5 seconds. I like the uptime of this. I like the purge, like the ability to be able to get a free leap pretty much anytime I want. And of course the gap close, which is nice. Going on to the final option, the Sunder is awesome. However, it's not more valued than Gather Strength or Through Peace, unfortunately. So basically your choice is extra durability, or I guess extra survivability would be the word here. And then Gather Strength is really nice. I highly recommend this one, especially in Cleave. You're probably getting hit by a lot of slows, so you're getting this all for free, so your abilities just do more damage. That's really nice. Then I'll show you a little screenshot on the left-hand side of the Vengeance loadout, pretty much the same. So what I'm running right here is the exact same thing I'm running on Vengeance. And then going on from that, we'll cover Focus next. All right, now we are Focus. This is also Rage. On top of that, by the way, Cauterized Coronary is the tactical I run with this. You can run quite a few different options. Cauterized Coronary is a Marauder tactical, but it does work on this too. I hear that they want to fix that. I don't know why. I feel like some of the Marauder tacticals, like in Rage Crush and Colorless Coronary are very good for both specs. I don't understand why they would want to change that. So I hope that they don't, and hopefully we can still keep using Colorless Coronary because it's definitely our best tactical choice for Focus and Rage at the moment. So going into the first selection, I am using the Aoe Racing Burst. This is really good for cleave, but in any situation that you're like single targeting a lot or you're just doing like decent uptime, I would highly recommend Zenith. Zenith is really, really good. This is critical damage, or critical hit damage and critical hit chance. This overall helps with our bad gear, like a lot, and our bad crit chance. I would usually recommend this one, but definitely check out the AoE Raging Burst because it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun playing with this, and that's why I have it selected right now. A lot of fun to play with. This one could also be really good. If our gear was more controllable, I feel like this would be actually just really good overall. And especially if you need to just like stick to one target, let's say you're sitting a sword killer for the entire game where you're just really trying to kill people, being able to permanently have trauma on them will really make it easier. And I also take Ravage Root, mostly just for the root in this situation, even though the AoE Blade Burst does a lot of damage on this spec also. I would definitely recommend checking that one out, especially if you're going to run AoE Raging Burst. Both of these do significant damage. I just like to have the Ravage Root in this situation so I can kind of like control people when they get into cleave and kind of like force them there. So if I end up using Obliterate, I don't, following it with Obliterate, I can kind of like keep them there. So you got the 3-second root and then you got the Obliterate root, which is nice. But going into something further is that when you use Obliterate, you get a mini Saber Ward basically, called Zilius Leap or whatever. So activating Zilius Leap, which is Obliterate, my bad. You get Zilius Defense. This 14,000 Azorb is actually pretty decent. You definitely do notice this. You pretty much have it up almost all the time if you're able to just blow through your rotation nonstop. Zealous Annihilation, you would have to really destroy an enemy team really fast to get this to constantly work. Most of the time that's not going to be the case, so I don't really recommend that one. And this one's also really nice to just cool down your combat focus. This means that you're able to have basically 0 cost in your abilities more often. Highly recommend checking this one out. This is a lot of fun too. But survivability, Zilius Defense is the way to go. We never want to use Force Clarity. I'm so happy that we don't have to do that anymore. This is definitely the one that you want. Each time, blah, blah, blah. We don't care about that. The main thing is the second part. Focus spending attacks have no cooldown during the duration of combat focus. This is why you take this. This is so good. So unbelievably good. Highly recommend checking it out. It's a lot of fun. We don't really care about this one. It's not terrible, right? But it all means being able to like smash 5 times or being able to like Fear Strike like 4 times in a row, 5 times in a row on somebody. Like that's so much more value than what this brings. So I highly recommend taking this before maybe it might actually even get nerfed. We don't know. But it's a lot of fun. And again, with the same choices here, we take Battlefield Command. I swear sometimes I butcher words unintentionally, I swear. We can definitely take this one. This one's kind of fun to play with too, but just having to leap more often is just something that I go for. Even though like Unyielding Justice, I would probably get more value out of. And then I take War Master because in the opener you have a lot of damage. You're going to be using your combat focus, and you're probably going to be going for Furious Strike or Concentrated Slice in this situation, and also Dispatch and Rage Burst. I have all of that like constantly just churning out in the beginning. It's a lot of burst damage, a lot of damage for somebody to deal with. Really nice. You could take the reduced cooldown for the heal too. This is pretty good, but I just really like the extra damage that this brings and the immunity when you actually leap. Blade Blitz, same thing. The ability to leap for free. Saber Reflect value, I don't really feel like it's there, and helps, mobility too. And the same thing here too. Gathering Strength. Having Gathering Strength is just so good on this spec. It's insane. This allows you to hit over 100,000 if you can get all 5 stacks and hit somebody with a decent crit. This is incredible. The survivability is definitely helpful, but if you're usually not playing focus or rage for survivability, I'll be honest with you. So you might as well just full send damage. It's a lot of fun. And the Sunder, again, doesn't compete with the other two. So that's that for rage. Also, our focus, also have a focus, our rage thing there too. My bad, totally butchering everything I'm trying to say. These are basically the choices that I have selected. Do recommend checking these out. The Blade Burst with the AoE, and then like Zenith with like the AoE too is not bad. Overall, these specs are really fun to play right now. And other than that, if you guys have any questions about these choices or just like any other classes you would like me to cover, I'll be more than happy to do it. I'm pretty much geared most of everything now. Sorcerer will be next. I just need one more implant for Sorcerer, and I'll be able to actually finally try that. I'm very excited for that. Other than that, I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.